Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, Singing with Lauren. My name's Lauren. I'm a singer and a voice teacher. And today I have something very special for you. I recently hired two other teachers onto my team at Singing with Lauren Studio, and their names are Zoe and Kyle. And so last week I sat down with Zoe to talk to her so that you could get to know her, what she's all about, her teaching style, and her past experiences teaching and her current experiences as a professional singer and teacher. So this is my interview with Zoe. We sat down virtually on Zoom and just had a great chat about teaching students, about learning, about music, about the state of the arts now that we are, 7 months into COVID. And we had a great time. So I got to know Zoe more. I think that you'll love her. She's an amazing teacher. She's already getting really good reviews. So if you want to schedule a free 20-minute consultation to book lessons with Zoe, I want you to click the link in the description. It's singingwithlauren.com/contact. And that's going to be a short form that you can fill out to contact me to get on my schedule for a 20-minute consultation so that we can get you into Zoe's calendar. So without further ado, click subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and here's my interview with Zoe. Okay, and we're live. Hey, Zoe.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome. So today we're going to do an interview with Zoe, who is one of the teachers here at Singing with Lauren Studio. So I'm happy you're here today, Zoe.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So let's just start off with learning a little bit about you. So can you tell us a little bit about your musical journey so far?
Sure. Well, I have been singing since I was little, and I went to performing arts middle school and high school, and then um, ended up doing conservatory for college. So I went to Peabody Conservatory of Johns Hopkins University for my undergrad. Woo woo! and, um, and I've always done musical theater, but I studied classical and opera there. And then after that, I took a few years off and was running a theater company in Baltimore City called Still Point Theater. I was a company member there, and we were doing a lot of musical theater and some plays, cabaret shows, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Went back, got my master's degree in voice performance from Towson University. And and since then, just gigging as much as possible, auditioning, and trying to make a career.
That's amazing. I didn't even know that you did that in between time at the theater company.
Yeah. I was with Still Point for about 5 years, and we put on full productions and had a theater space at one point, and it was really great.
That's amazing. So when you went to your master's, then did you focus a little bit more in musical theater in your master's, or was that like strictly classical too?
The program there was also classical. So I would be like in school doing classical, and then after school be in a show with the theater company. So I was kind of dabbling throughout.
That's super helpful though, probably for your students, because you're able to really navigate both styles, which not all classical singers can do.
Yeah. Well, it's hard for me. I'm very indecisive, and I just like love so many different kinds of music. And so I've taken jazz lessons too when I was at Towson as well. I
Wow.
make my mind up, so I'm like, all right, I'll just do all of it. So, I've done like professional choirs and all of it.
That's amazing. Yeah, taking a jazz lesson is something I've never done, but I should take one because sometimes when I'm with a jazz band, they're just like, "Oh yeah, just like throw in this flat here and like make that chord a seventh," and I'm like, "Whoa, guys, like I don't know how to do that." Like you're gonna have
Yeah.
to write that out on sheet music for me.
Yeah.
But
Oh
they
yeah.
can just do it.
Yeah.
That's so
I
great.
mean, I wouldn't say I'm perfect at doing all that either, but it was really fun. It's, you know, just a totally different style. So it was cool to use my voice in a different way.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so what do you have a moment? I guess you went to performing schools the whole time, even in middle school, which is amazing. Um, did you already know, like at that point, that you wanted a career in music, or did it kind of happen gradually? What was your experience with that?
I um I since like as young as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a singer. You know, in elementary school when they'd be like, "Who's your favorite singer?" My answer is Barbara Streisand by the age of 7. So I was one of those kids.
You had good taste.
Well, it's thanks to, you know, my family introducing me to musical theater at a really young age. I was like watching Yentl and My Fair Lady and Funny Girl and all those kinds of things at a really young age. And and whenever anyone would come over to the house, I would do full performances of Don't Rain on My Parade for the neighbors. They were probably like, what's happening?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So you know, even in elementary school, I was chosen to do all county chorus. I've just like always loved singing and performing.
Wow. I mean, it's really funny you say that. I can't think of his name, but my mom had one of the greatest hits for the original guy who played the Phantom. Do you know who that is? He's super famous, but he doesn't sing. I think he's like retired now. But
I'm not.
yeah, so like Music of the Night was on there, like The Phantom, like all these other random musical theater songs that he would do. And I remember when that tape broke, it was like a sad day. It was a sad day in our house.
I love that we're also talking about a tape, like
Yes,
a cassette.
it was a tape for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, big shout out to Paul and Marion, my parents. Cause yeah, when people say like, you know, when they talk about their childhoods, like if you were introduced to music, it's pretty much because like somebody in your family was already like into it. So
Yeah. Well, my dad is also a musician.
oh,
He's
really?
a drummer, and then my grandma, she also like sang when she was young and came over from Russia, but like, you know, introduced a lot of things. And my mom as well just like was really good at kind of pushing that style of music and classical music too, all that kind of stuff. So I was very lucky to have artistic parents who really kind of pushed that.
Yes. Yeah. And I always tell, you know, the parents of our students, it's not about them being the next child prodigy, you know, it's just about like exactly what you said, like building the music appreciation, because once that's there at a young age, I mean, really the sky's the limit for even picking up other instruments, playing orchestra, band, continuing to sing throughout childhood. But it, like you said, it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah. And you know, and it doesn't have to be one type of music, but I think the more that you introduce your kids to at a young age, they're sponges. They don't know what their favorite thing is yet. So the more that you just kind of show them and what they grab onto, I think is exciting.
Right. Yeah, no one was ever like, when I was growing up listening to these musical theater or classical, it wasn't like, oh, classical's so boring, or like this is so
Right.
boring. It was just like, oh, this is like what's on around me and I'm just listening to it and enjoying it.
Yeah.
Except I have to say, like, my dad always played the easy listening station, and I always was like, please don't play that. Oh man. So um obviously both of us have had a lot of voice teachers in our lives,
Yeah.
especially after hearing um from you on that. But I'm curious, like, do you have a most influential voice teacher, or one that really kind of like changed the game for you? And who was that? And tell us a little bit about it.
Uh, I really like this question because so much of my being, I like have to give thanks to a lot of these teachers that have just like changed my life. And there's definitely been more than one. I would say, I studied with Colleen Daly, who, since I was 15, who's amazing, and Ah Hong, who is also amazing.
Love
And
her.
you probably know her, yeah. But I have to say Terry Eberhardt, who was my first voice teacher that I met when I was 11 at a summer stock camp, and I still, we still are in touch. Like, he's family to me. And he's actually married to Colleen, so it's perfect because I get to just
Wow.
in my life. Yeah, I mean, I did this summer stock, and he like took me under his wing and introduced me to even more music. And also, when I was younger, my my mom was a single mom, and Terry gave us a financial break so that I could take private voice lessons with him, which was like,
Amazing.
he was just amazing. And yeah, and I studied with him all the way until college, and then even after college would still sometimes go and have a lesson with him. But yeah, he's an amazing teacher, and he also like is just like so loving and caring, and yeah, he's family to me. So he definitely helped get me ready for college auditions and for any show that I was auditioning for, anything like that. And yeah, and he was the one who was like, I want you to go to college for classical music and learn that really good training, and then you can sing what. That was kind of, so he had gone to Peabody, and yeah, so I owe so much to him, and I love him so much. And yeah.
Yeah, it's so incredible how I think there's always those teachers that kind of come into play at a very pivotal moment. And
Yes.
it's like, either it's this way or this way. And when you're, especially in your younger career, you do need that mentorship.
Yes.
If you're
Gosh.
13, like you're not going to know or what to do next.
Yeah.
And I think that makes for such a special relationship between voice teachers and students. When I talk about my students, it's hilarious. Like, I think everyone thinks I'm crazy because I know so many details, and they're so funny, and I always remember their jokes and their birthdays and all that stuff. And I think when it doesn't always make sense until you hear us talk about our voice teachers, and we realize that like it's kind of a generational thing almost, which is why people can track their piano teachers up to like Beethoven and stuff, which I always think is so weird and funny. But yeah, and it really makes a big difference, because I think we're not, at the end of the day, like, yes, we're teaching people how to sing, and yes, we were taught by others how to sing, but we're also teaching musicality, performance, being a good human,
Yeah.
and all of these other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially, when I was 11, and awkward and things like that. It's like to have someone who's like this figure in your life and because it's a private lesson, it just becomes more of like an intimate thing than a classroom setting where it's a lot of kids. You can really build this rapport with your teacher, and it has an effect not just on my singing, but like who I am as a person. There's a lot of like life values and things like that are like, I feel like a part of being a teacher, and having, this other figure that, has your back. And, it's so many things.
Right.
And so the teacher-student relationship, I think, is such a special relationship, especially doing something artistic where there's so much room to like talk about that expression and be vulnerable in that way of like, okay, like what's this song about? Oh, it's kind of a sad song. Well, like let's talk about that. What do you think? Like, how do we make this, connect to you? And then that becomes like, just like learning about the student, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. And bringing up vulnerability. I did a post about this a couple weeks ago, but it's very normal to cry in voice lessons, but
Oh
not
my God.
because you're sad.
Yeah. I've cried 100 million times in a voice lesson.
Yeah, so I always
The act of singing is also can be really like cathartic, and it's like you're using your whole body, and it's like your breath and all this stuff. So yeah, it's crazy sometimes the reaction that can all of a sudden you're like,
tears.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I always tell my students, like, they're always so embarrassed when they start crying. I'm like, listen, I've cried hundreds of more times than you probably ever will in voice
yeah.
lessons. We've been doing them for so long. But it really is that safe space to connect to the music, maybe even release other things that are going on in our lives, and to just be present, which is so
So
awesome.
I always think of my voice lessons as a therapy session.
Yes, I agree. Um, so I'm curious, someone asked me this question a couple weeks ago, and it really piqued my interest, and I kept thinking about it for many days. So was there a moment that you felt like quitting, but you just kept going, like something inside you kind of clicked forward, and what was that experience like for you?
I think those moments come. I
Yeah.
would say coronavirus is definitely a time where you're like,
Oh yeah.
cool, cool, cool. Like everything's closed. What is my life and my purpose? This is
Yeah.
what I'm doing my whole life. So now that it's non-existent right now, what do I do?
Yes.
And so, but I feel like honestly, every time I have those thoughts, it's me being a little pouty for a minute. Anytime I'm like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. It's like me just kind of wanting to feel sorry for myself for a little. And then it doesn't take long to be like, all right, when's the next audition? When's the next thing to do? Because anytime I think about not doing it, I'm like, what else would I do? Like, what else, you know, no matter what you do, you have to work hard doing it if you want to be good at it, right? So why would you pick something that you don't love as much, that you're going to work hard for anyway, when you could just do what you love and just keep working hard on it? So I don't see myself doing anything else. And this includes the whole realm of music, like teaching and all of these things. It's not just being a performer,
Right.
but music has always been my passion. Performing arts has always been my passion. So yeah, so whenever I have those little moments, they don't last too long, and again, it's usually just me wanting to be a little sorry for myself for a
Yeah,
minute.
totally.
Yeah, but then I'm like, well, what else am I gonna do? Like sit behind a desk? I don't think that I could do that. I'm like too like I got to be doing this day and that day. Like
Right.
I get bored so easily. So even though this life is a little extra crazy, I think that works for my personality of crazy. So
Yeah, I totally agree. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen with our performances and when we'll be performing again. But, I think it's always good at times like this to kind of take a step back and like reassess, like, is this still what I love? Which sounds like, what you have been going through. Of course, I've been going through it as well,
yeah.
having programs canceled, this canceled, that canceled. And, instead, for me, I'm using it as a time to explore singing a lot more the different genres. So I actually had a lesson myself with a new teacher a couple like last week, who specializes in contemporary music, which is a
Oh,
totally different experience for me, and something I probably would have never thought if I was, right now caught up in an audition season.
no.
So what can we do with this time, and also just connecting with our students in that way and still sharing music, I think has been a big blessing, because if I
Oh,
could not perform and also not teach, it would be super depressing.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I am so thankful that I've had my students to teach through this time, to like still be having music going on. Absolutely. I think I would be really, really sad if I didn't have that outlet, and still feel like I'm making a difference through music. I'm sharing music. And when coronavirus started, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to play the guitar finally. So that's been a
Oh,
project I've been doing too. But yeah, I am super grateful to have my students. They have no idea how much it helps me to be working with them as well.
right. Yeah. So let's talk about Zoom lessons a little bit. I don't think, we planned on that, but it's very relevant. So what was the switch like to teaching Zoom lessons for you? And, do you feel like they're different than in-person lessons? You feel like they're just as effective? Like, how has the experience been for you? Because you weren't teaching online before, right?
Right.
So it was a full switch,
Yeah.
everything closed. So yeah, speak on that a little bit.
There definitely was a little bit of a learning curve. There's certain things where I would be like, okay, I'm going to circle this thing. And I'm like, oh, wait, you have to do it. Like, I can't do it. So,
Right.
so yeah, definitely a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm honestly kind of amazed how, well it's been working.
Mm-hmm.
My students were still getting a lot done. And in some ways, it's forced my students to have to work harder at things that when I'm in the room, they don't have to, like reading their own notes, because now I can't be in front of them pointing and being like, this is this and that is that. So it's a little bit more like, I'm like, okay, I need you to tell me what are those notes there. And so I feel like their reading is getting a little stronger because I'm not in front of them. I also know, like, with some of my students that also work a little bit on piano, that when I'm in front of them and they can just kind of see what my hand does and mimic it, that they can memorize it that way instead of like having to kind of do it themselves. And so it's kind of taken away a little bit of a crutch with like, in the long run, I think in some ways is better for them. It's beneficial. And then with singing, it's really working out. I know sometimes there's a little bit of like, when you get to higher notes, the camera's like, what's happening?
Let's talk a little bit, yeah.
But overall, I think, yeah, I'm impressed by how well it's been working. I'm thankful for it too, because if it wasn't, I would, because I want my kids to have a good experience. And so if I was feeling like the experience was really terrible online, that would really eat away at me. So I'm really grateful that we actually are able to do a lot and achieve a lot.
I totally agree. And I've noticed the things that you're talking about as well. It's not as much, well, of course we're still helping and everything, but we're not so quick to jump in and be like, oh, it's this.
Yeah.
Because they're stuck. We really have to encourage them to be independent.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
And one thing that I noticed that I really like is, first I was annoyed that we had to use so many tracks, like pre-recorded tracks, even in my own lessons. But as a teacher, I find that when the student's using a pre-recorded track and I'm able to just listen to them, I'm able to catch so much more than if I was playing piano and listening to them at the same time.
Yeah,
it's kind of like something that I was first super annoyed with, and then I changed my mind about it, because I'm able to kind of zoom in on them.
I agree. I completely agree. Yeah, it's like when you're kind of accompanying, you can't fully focus the way that you can if they're, and the pre-recorded tracks, they're fine. They're good. They're probably doing a better job than I would have done anyway. So.
And there's so many online now too.
Yeah, definitely. And especially with like students doing pop music and stuff, to be able to have a karaoke track, you get kind of more of the actual sound that it would sound like in the pop song, instead of like a piano.
Like an acoustical piano version. It's very
exactly. Yeah. So it kind of fits the feel better in some cases.
Yeah. So that leads us to our next question. So what would you say that working with you, like if I was going to be your student, like what would you tell me that working with you is like? Like what's a voice lesson with you all about?
I would say, my biggest thing as a teacher is that I want to have the student enjoy music. Like that is my main goal. I want them to be excited about music. I want to feed that passion of music. And I want them to feel comfortable with me. I don't want them to be like, oh, this is a scary teacher. Like, that's not me at all. That's not my personality at all. I know, like I said, the impact that having really positive teachers has had on me. And I know the impact of having some negative teachers in my life too has had a bad impact on me. So I know the direction and the style that I like to teach in. And maybe that doesn't work for everyone, but for myself, that's me being true to myself. So a lesson with me is about having fun and learning at the same time. So making sure we're singing healthy is huge for me, because I think it's a disservice when teachers don't do that, because in the long run, they could actually physically be hurting their students. So singing healthy, no matter the style, like we can work on anything. I want to do what kids are passionate about, or adults, like, whatever their favorite song is or artist, we can work on it. It doesn't have to be one genre. But it does have to be healthy singing. So
Amen.
doing those warm-ups and the technique and stretching the voice. I love when students come and they're like, oh, I can only sing to here. I can't go any higher. And then 2 lessons later, we got them going so much higher, and they're like shocked by it, and it's exciting. I love doing that. And so, so working that technique through warm-ups and then through the song as well. And then I also, of course, love, once we've got that technique figured out, let's put that emotion into it, and let's talk about that expression. And because I always say being a singer is also being an actress a little bit, because no one wants to watch a singer just sing with no feeling. So,
no.
so I love putting that together, because I also really enjoy acting myself. So kind of getting into that a little bit too.
Yeah, and in that way, like voice lessons really help prepare you for not just singing, but also auditioning, musical theater. A lot of our students go on to perform in their school plays.
Yeah.
Same thing with adults, if we can convince them to audition for their community theater and stuff like that, or if they're performing or preparing for, a big audition or something.
Yeah.
Well, they have to work on the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I love prepping my kids for auditions, because I get so much into game zone, and I'm like, okay, here's what we're doing. We're gonna make you feel so good about this. And then when they get it, it's like you're like, oh my gosh, I helped.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my younger boy students. I think he's like 9 or 10, and he just recently auditioned for a virtual musical, because now they're writing virtual musicals. I don't know if you have heard about this yet.
I have.
And I told him, it was really funny, because one week he said, I'm just doing the stage crew. I'm just doing stage crew. And I was like, well, you've been taking voice lessons. Like, would you consider auditioning? And he was like, absolutely not. I have stage fright. And I was like, well, that's okay. We all have stage fright to some degree, And then the next week at his lesson, he's like, yeah, I recorded my audition. And I was like, wait, what? How did we get to there? And he's like, so can you watch it and help me? And so we kind of tweak some things on the audition tape. And I said, okay, let me know as soon as you hear. Like I was a little too energetic. I was like, let me know as soon as you hear. And he's like, I think you're just going to have to wait till my lesson. And I was like, oh, like, don't make me wait. I need to know.
Why?
Super funny. Awesome. So what would you say to someone who's thinking about voice lessons and is nervous to take the next step? Because so many of our new students are like that, as you know, they tell us we've been waiting for years,
Yeah.
and they need, if someone needed something to push them over the ledge, what would you tell them?
I would say, go for it. If it's something that's been on your mind, if this time in life has taught us anything, don't wait. Like, I'm so happy with all of the new adult students I'm getting during this coronavirus time who are like, you know what? I want to do this for me. Like, I've always loved to sing and I want to like actually cultivate this. I'm like, yes, like
Yes.
that's amazing. I would say you got to just go for it. If you love to sing and this has always been something you've wanted to do, don't let the nerves get in your way of doing it, because once you get past that little hump of feeling nervous, it's going to be so fun and therapeutic, and it's going to like, and you're going to be proud of yourself because you've like gotten over that hump and you've achieved that. So I would say you got to just go for it.
Yes, 100% agree. Okay, so let's finish off with a fun question. Do you have a student success story that you're proud of that you want to share with us?
um I have so many because I have been so lucky to have amazing students throughout all my years of teaching. So it's hard to pick one, but because I spoke to her the other day, so I'll tell you this one student I had since she was like 9 or 10.
Oh, wow.
And when she first came in, she was the shyest little girl. It
Oh,
was hard to get her to open her mouth to really do any singing. And it took a lot of like kind of letting those walls down, and making her feel comfortable with me to get her to like open up and start singing. And I had her for about 5 years, and the only reason that we stopped doing lessons was I had moved out of state.
oh, okay.
Uh, and in the 5 years, she went from being this very timid girl to getting lead roles in her school shows. And I just watched her grow so much as a person and vocally. And so she actually texted me the other day. We're still in touch. Now that we're doing lessons virtually, she's been like, maybe I'll like take lessons again at some point, which I would love because I love her so much. But she, when she was younger, would say to me, because of you, I want to grow up and be a music teacher. And I was so incredibly flattered, and I was like, but she's young, like, like we'll see what happens. And so she texted me the other day because she wanted to ask me a question about an audition she's doing, because we're still in touch.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, so now you're gonna be like a senior in high school. What are you thinking for college? And she's like, I want to be a music teacher. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is state.
Oh,
I have made her passion for music grow, and now she wants to share her passion for music. And it's like, I just never, you just like, you're like, wow, that's amazing. So I feel very proud of that one. And in between, like helping her prepare for her chorus auditions and her show auditions, and when she would make those things, how awesome that would feel. But I think I feel extra proud just because she's grown to love music so much that she now wants to like share that gift to more people. And I feel like, that's like continuing the generations
yes.
basically.
Full circle moment.
Yeah. So that's a really proud moment for me as a
Wow, that's congratulations on that. That I have not had that happen yet, so I'll have to add that to my teaching bucket list.
yeah. It's kind of amazing. Well, we'll see what she ends up doing, but even that she's still years later is on that trajectory makes me feel very proud.
Right.
This girl, she is so smart. She could be a scientist. She could be a doctor. Maybe it's bad I'm taking her away from these things, but I think she would be a really, really good music teacher too. So, yeah. So I don't know. I feel proud.
Amazing. So if you had to leave a parting message to a potential future student, what would you say to them?
Huh. I would say go for it. If you have ever been like, I love singing, I love music, but oh, I can't do it. Like I can't sing. My voice isn't good. Like all these kinds of things, this like inner dialogue that happens to all of us that is super unhelpful. I would say go for it. Now's the time to, like I said, if we've learned anything through coronavirus times, it's life is short and life can be really hard. So let's fill it with some joy and learn something in the process.
Amazing. Yes. I think I'm gonna go practice after this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you're watching this and you want to schedule a trial lesson with Zoe, email us. We'll drop the email in the description, and we'll get you started on your singing journey. So thanks so much, Zoe, for recording this with me today. It was great to talk to you, and we'll chat soon.
Cool. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.